Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Last Best Hope for Conversation, a JKL Media podcast. We are wrapping up the telepath line as we discuss Phoenix Rising, the 11th episode of season 5, originally aired April 1st, 1998. I am one of your hosts, Jesse Jackson.
That's all I can say. Can we wish it was April Fool's?
We are recording this Sunday after an election that is disappointing to many of us. So if we get a little political this episode, please give us some grace.
I
But
may
for
not
now,
want to talk about it.
this voice you're hearing is the podcast mom. Hello, Karen.
Hello.
And we have Lou,
Hello, everyone.
who is sitting there in Canada going, God, the U.S. is like someone said, Canadians think the U.S. is the basement that has a meth lab in it. And you keep going, why the hell do I live in this apartment?
Right.
Yeah, well, things are not that much different up here politically, I think, and ideologically. There's a lot of disillusion in politics these days.
Yes.
We're thinking of moving to New Zealand.
Phoenix Rising is the end of the telepath storyline. Of course, there'll be continued more telepath subplots. We do get the payoff of when we saw this in the future. That episode where they showed the clips where they were doing a retrospective on Sheridan's career. So we get the other side of this. On the upside, we get the wrap of the storyline. On the downside, we do not get any scenes of Tracy Scoggins showing off her great arms.
Right.
Okay. Lynn and I went to see Sheryl Crow and Pink.
It's hot.
Nice.
Yes. And Linda goes, look at Sheryl Crow's arms. She does. So, Karen, what's your thoughts on this one?
I liked it better than the last few episodes, that's for sure. Mostly the Garibaldi parts of it, but I did appreciate the telepath storyline a little bit more, although there are some problematic parts to it.
All right.
Yeah, I thought this was a good ending. If this is the ending of this particular storyline, I actually thought it was pretty good. Like Karen, I enjoyed the Bester Garibaldi parts the most. I appreciate the fact that Sheridan was more active in this episode than he had been in the previous one. My big question is, though, who's the Phoenix that is rising?
I know that Tracy talked about the Phoenix being one of her favorite symbols. I did some research as I was reading into the script books, the JMS, they published. He had lost a lot of the notes he had on season 5.
Convenient.
And that makes sense.
And he had lost, Susan Ivanova's character. And so he really, and the premise was that he was going to, he had Byron be very close to Marcus so that Susan had the choice to select a good partner, and she chose not to pick him, a Marcus. So this time she had the choice and she picked the wrong partner that was similar. And so that was his mind when he had that, right?
I would have been so upset by that.
Yeah. And so he ended up remembering the storyline, and he said, if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have made Byron a Marcus wannabe. I would have made him much more charismatic, much more dynamic, so that he would have gotten Lita to understand him. So in this script book, he says that this storyline is done. He's happy. He felt rested, and he felt like he was now in by the way, this script book ends with this script. And he says, now we go on to the rest of season 5 with, I think we sprint to the finish. So in his mind, this was kind of, he started over with a fresh look, and we will see what you guys think of the storylines. So let's talk about Garibaldi wanting to kill, because I do think that's one of the highlights that I've been wanting to talk about when we saw Bester and Garibaldi in the little train in Mars, and he explains it, and the times we've tried to see him. I wanted so much to bring this up, and I was like, no, gotta wait till it happens. So I think it's interesting that Michael is, I don't care if I have to go to jail. I don't care. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you right now. I'm going to kill you so hard. And then you
I'm
see
going to
him
kill
keep,
you 3 times.
yeah,
Yeah.
you just see him. He can't pull the trigger. I love the Asimov reference as someone who
Yeah. That was
loved Isaac
great.
Asimov and the three laws of robotics. So, Lou, since Garibaldi is by far one of your favorite characters, let's talk about this. And then, Karen, I'll get you to jump in.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed the standoff between Garibaldi and Bester. I just think Walter Koenig played his smugness so perfectly. He was teasing Garibaldi that he was going to start the recording, but he uh, doesn't, and then he throws it in his face. And then he sits down, has a glass of water, and he says, "This is the situation, Garibaldi, and you can't do nothing about it." And he's just so smug. I just loved it. I thought he played it really well. And Garibaldi was so pissed off in this episode. People kept on saying, "Where's Garibaldi?" He says, "I don't know. When he's quiet, he's up
Mm.
to no good." I love that. And so those scenes played out really well. At the end of the episode, when he comes back, I assume he came back, but that was a quick trip if he did. He said, "Okay, so I can't kill you, at least not yet, until I f figure a way to get around this neural link, but I can still hurt you." And the fact that I'm pretty sure he's behind the bombing of the Psi Corps headquarters, I thought was just,
Did you watch the wrong episode?
no,
Because there was no bombing in mine.
he was listening to something.
Oh, the
Yeah,
Mars thing?
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
I don't think that was Garibaldi.
Oh, okay. All
I
right.
don't.
But like they pulled out C4 or something and put it on the counter there when he's unpacking.
No,
All
he
right.
pulled up a bottle.
Yeah.
I don't think that was. Though.
Okay.
yeah.
No, I
The
don't.
feet or
Why
something.
would he listen to that news bite like that? Yeah.
Had the news on. I don't think it had
Okay.
anything.
Well,
Yeah.
I read it that he was sort of having that drink and saying, "Okay, I can't get you, but I can still hurt you in other ways."
I just wanted to clarify if you saw something different.
Just heard it like on the news. So
Yeah,
he's,
it does have contacts now on
well,
Mars.
he contacted them to
Yep,
do it.
that's
So,
a great theory.
because that seems very Garibaldish to me. Like, if you can't do
Yeah.
one thing, then let's hurt him another way.
All right,
Okay.
so I'm looking at it right now. It looks like he puts down food, like 2 loaves of bread and something else.
Okay, I
Yeah,
thought
he's
the
cooking.
rectangular box looked like C4 or
Yeah,
something.
kinda, but I think it's food.
Yeah, I think he's gonna make dinner.
I love that glass that he's drinking out of too.
Same,
That's a hefty drinking glass,
really
boy. Woo.
neat. Yeah,
It's very nice. I now wonder. Now I want to
I
watch
want to
that
watch the
show.
next one big
Okay.
time.
All right. Yes. Yeah. Please look.
Oh, I think that's pretty well it for Garibaldi.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean,
Do you want to talk about his drinking?
um, was he drinking a
Yep.
lot?
Yeah, he has. He's now started drinking.
Okay, yeah, so that's true. Totally forgot about that. Yeah, that's not good.
No, it's not good.
I totally forgot that he was on the wagon.
Oh,
Yeah. Um,
100% not good.
maybe he found out. I don't
Well,
Oh, mm, that's
that
interesting.
one of the speculation on Lurker's Guide is that because Marcus mentions there are certain things that can help blocks.
know.
So the theory was is he drinking because he thinks it can dull that block
Yeah.
so that he
Right.
can have control again?
It
Yep.
can muddle him enough that
He
he,
can
That
do
that
that.
makes
Yeah.
sense. That
Yeah.
would be probably one of the few reasons for him to take drinking up again.
Yeah.
and it
Yeah,
would
that
So,
also
totally makes
parallel the
sense.
other story about the weird leech things on.
so Karen, your thoughts on this?
Okay, I agree with Lou that the Garibaldi stuff was amazing. I always love him and Bester together for sure,
Yes.
because they are incredibly well matched adversaries, I think.
Yeah.
Garibaldi has a lot of tactical experience from being a soldier and then being a security guy. So I think he's playing chess. And I think Bester is just looking at the board and going, I can beat him. I'll wait till the
Yeah.
last move. So he's not thinking strategically. He is sure he's got it all in the bag. And I think
Yeah.
that's where he's going to mess up because we know the good guys win, right? Isn't that the deal? The good guys always win. But anyway, I, I'm
For those
going
of
on
you who
that.
aren't,
Not in
for
real
those of you
life.
listening,
No, that's
yeah,
for
for
sure.
those,
That is
I'm,
laced with irony.
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. Nicely done, Karen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the premise I'm going on, at least in this fictional world.
Yes.
Maybe not the real one. I think that there's going to be ways that he can work around it. And I do think that his and Franklin, they have a thing bonded over this addiction thing. And they really do have like a really good relationship. And I think they're going to work together to get over this. And now we know that Franklin also has a beef because being taken hostage, and he's actually brought up the mind block to Sheridan. So now it's out there. And also, I noticed that when they were being held hostage together, Garibaldi, he asked him first about a neural block and then he gave away other stuff. He's
Mhm.
like, these stupid telepaths, you can't trust them. And so now Franklin has information not only straight from Garibaldi, but also inferring from Garibaldi what other things. So I think he has a good idea of what happened. And I'm going
No,
to
no, no.
like seeing that. I did love the Asimov stuff. And just in case our audience doesn't know about the three laws of robotics, Asimov made these three laws, and I think some of it was a pushback against things like Frankenstein's monster, where it was a created being that didn't follow these rules. And he thought that if people engineered robots, that they would engineer them in a way to protect themselves. And so
Yeah.
it was a robot must not harm a human or allow a human to come to harm through inaction, which
Yes.
was mentioned in this episode. A robot must obey human orders unless doing so would conflict with the first law. And a robot must protect itself unless doing so would conflict with the first or second law. So that means they can't harm humans. They can't ignore harm that would come to humans. They have to obey orders unless it harms a human. And then they may protect itself unless it conflicts with obedience and or with harming humans. So it's like a terrace of laws.
No, I was going to say, and Isaac has said in his books, when he's doing both in his autobiography and then when he does collections of short stories, that he believes that you can't, if you follow those guidelines, it's hard to write a bad story.
Right.
And the thought is like when we have a knife, there is now a hilt that stops you from hurting yourself.
Right.
There is a handle so that we would not exactly what you said, Karen. We would not build a device that didn't have safeguards.
Right.
And the
We'd put a
beauty,
scabbard on it
yeah,
and a really, really strong hilt. And
and
essentially, what you're doing is you're taking away an artificial conflict, which is a
yeah,
big deal in fiction,
yeah,
because you want a conflict to make sense. And by having these laws, it makes a lot of sense
yeah.
in stories because
Hmm.
we definitely would not build something that would hurt us, right?
It would have been interesting if Isaac was still alive and
Mm,
seeing the stories he wrote about that. That would
yeah,
be very interesting.
I would love to see his take on it. So,
Yeah,
anyway, he has this dilemma now, Garibaldi. He's
yeah.
working things through. And the one thing, and I'm glad you mentioned this, Lou, that it might dull his mind control because now I have a better feeling about him drinking. But before I
Mm,
was like, this is very problematic to me.
right.
Why would he do that? That was one of the things that rubbed me the wrong way. But I think you have a great point, Lou. I think that now colors it in a better light for me that he's trying to dull that mind control. And I think that's a great point.
I'll drink to that.
When, yeah, one of Lawrence Block is a mystery writer
Yep.
that
Mm-hmm.
is amazing, and his Matthew Scudder books, they were pretty good mystery novels, and then till he kind of reached the point where he realized his character was an alcoholic, and he explores and I'm drawing a blank on the book. Can you remember Seven Ways that no, oh, I can't remember the specific novel that he discovers that but anyway, one of the books, the end of the book is he 8 million ways to die. Yeah, 82. He ends with admitting he's an alcoholic. And since then, the series continues and he's very active in AA. And one of the scenes is his sponsor complains that on NYPD Blue, when Andy's son dies, he starts drinking again.
Mm,
And he says that that's wrong.
right,
And so, and it's just this is their words, it's a weakness. Just, an alcoholic uses any excuse to drink again.
right,
And so in this case, you think, well, okay, is he just what is the reason for this? Is this just the excuse to try to drink? I don't know, but I remember being very disappointed that he's going to the bottle again after had so much he had gone through, like when he still didn't drink when he was against when he was against Sheridan, he didn't drink when he came back. And now to do this seemed disappointing, and I was very unhappy. However, if you think he's using the excuse that maybe this can get through this block, and as an alcoholic, any excuse is a reason to drink, I
right.
think it gives you some added
A
complexity.
little, right. And uh, talking about tropes, like in writing,
Yeah,
there's always something that the hero has to overcome.
yeah,
And he did this last season with the whole mind control thing with Bester,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Which means he can overcome adversity even as hard as it gets, right? I mean, that's a big trope. We need our heroes to prove their strength in a book, or else we don't believe it. All of our heroes in Babylon 5 have done that. I don't like seeing him have to overcome something else, but I get it. So I
Yeah,
think at the very least, this is another hurdle for him to overcome to become a better
yeah.
hero, quote unquote.
All right. Anything else before we move to the actual kidnapping?
Mm,
No?
nah.
All right. So let's talk about the actual kidnapping. We do get the payoff. We knew this was going to happen. The two actors who play the instigators are someone they looked familiar.
Lee McCloskey is the one
Yeah.
with the long hair, and he's been in a lot of things.
Hmm.
He's one of those guys that when I was growing up, people were like, "Oh, Lee McCloskey is so cute."
Hmm.
So yeah, he was in Rich Man, Poor Man, which
Okay.
was a big deal when I was
Yes.
growing up.
Back in the
So,
Yes.
day.
yep,
Yeah, back in the day when we had miniseries, and as
Yeah.
that's
Ed
right.
Asner,
Oh, Rich Man, Poor
Emmys,
Man. Yeah.
he
Roots.
he
Roots.
talked
Yeah.
about that Roots was not he was said because he was in both Rich Man Poor Man and Roots, and he
Mm,
says if you're honest, when Roots came out, you were sure could it be a successful Rich Man Poor Man?
right.
Because it was at the time was something brand new, this mini
Yep.
series for TV, and it ended up being great. So yeah, really, that's a a different time that was so great. All right.
And the
Yeah.
other telepath, he was in a lot of things as well. He did a lot of voices, Spawn.
Yeah.
He was in Jag, Johnny Quest, all those stuff, and The West Wing,
Oh,
which you might
nice.
know him from. He was
Yeah.
in several episodes as a reporter.
Yes. By the way, I'm
So
in the middle of a West Wing rewatch.
that-
I need that for politics. Always goes back. So, yeah, any thoughts, Karen, on the actual how they played, the whole we don't negotiate with terrorists, this back and forth, and then Byron kept saying, "Look, you've got to trust me. I can fix my people." And I'm like, "Why would I trust you? Why
right,
would I trust you, right?
right.
You've done nothing to make me trust you." So, any
Well,
thoughts on that, Karen?
that's the enemy of my enemy is my friend thing, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and Lita's vouching for him, which
Yeah.
helps, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
um, and I think the hostage crisis thing, that was also talked about a lot in the 80s and 90s, people being
Yes.
taken hostage overseas. And I don't think it had much to do with this, but it definitely was something that, like, I grew up with it being a familiar thing. So, it makes me sad when I see it. The fact that they found a room with both Garibaldi and Franklin in it, I think was a boon. I mean, that's fantastic for them, right?
Yeah.
And it was a very easy threat to make to say, we'll take out Garibaldi and then Franklin. They know that they're both important people.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that there was this whole caper with Lita and Byron, trying to get free and go see the president and all this.
Hmm.
I think that was interesting as well. And the fact that Byron was the one that saved the day, again, interesting. It, I felt better about his character in this episode. To be fair, I haven't liked him at all. You guys know that.
Yeah.
But I think his character was a little more 3D in this episode. And
Yeah.
it's sad that now he's not in it anymore, just when it was getting to a good point.
How do you feel about his sacrifice at the end?
I think it was a mistake to allow it
Yeah.
because now he's a martyr.
Right.
And a martyr is always more powerful than a leader. And
Yes.
I mean, I think that's true, right? And so now they were already militant, and now
Yes.
they have something to act against. Well, our leader is dead because of you.
Yeah.
And now it becomes a more powerful symbol for them that, well, we've lost this person. Now we can act for real and we're justified. So, I feel like it's going to be a sticking point there, although I'm still not sure as to which side we're supposed to root for.
Hmm.
Telepath. I mean, I love Bester, but he's definitely a villain.
Yeah.
So, he doesn't care about hurting humans. And we've
Yeah.
seen that in this episode. And we've also seen that Byron was a good guy.
Yeah. All right. Lou, thoughts? And by the way, let's talk about JMS says that this shows that Bester is good at what he does. So thoughts on this kind of the actual hostage situation, Sheridan's working with it, and the resolution, and then your thoughts on Bester.
Okay. I think that while I enjoyed this episode of the telepaths the most out of anything that we've seen so far, I think it also shows that JMS needed to do a couple of more passes on the whole telepath storyline,
Yeah,
because the reveal that Byron and Bester had a previous relationship, to me, that's something that should have been revealed way earlier, and that would have made the Byron character much more sympathetic. Unfortunately, it would also set up this big inconsistency with these telepaths, where they're constantly berating mundanes, yet Byron balked at shooting a ship full of mundanes. I wish they had done more of the Byron Bester relationship. I think that would have been a much more interesting story than what we got. I just think that this episode really shows how it doesn't hang together. And I was kind of laughing when Byron was saying goodbye to Lita, and all these other people are at the other end of the corridor. They're just like sort of tapping their toes while these two are having like this heart to heart conversation. And I was going, really? Really? Those other people are just going to stand there and let them talk this long? I just didn't buy that.
is kind of,
It
yeah,
was just kind of funny. Uh, the corrosive chemicals, just why didn't you just say it was gasoline? I don't know.
yeah,
It was
Right?
like kind of weird. I think you had like a great point, Jesse, off the top of this, is why would anybody trust Byron to deliver anything? He's been a failure at everything he's done so far.
yeah.
So that totally was like, yeah, it was just like you're just like, dudes, this is just not working at all. And the other thing that this is, and I complained about this last episode, is like, where was Sheridan like all in the previous episode? And now he gets involved when things have escalated,
Yeah,
and it's kind of like in the end game, it's too late.
right.
He should have been involved much earlier. So yeah, it just reinforced all the things that I just didn't like about the storyline, even though for some odd reason, I guess because it was the conclusion, that I was more invested in it than I should have been. And Bester was interesting in that he was chafing against the Earth government overruling him. I found that kind of hard to believe that the government sided with the telepaths. But that was, again, another inconsistency potential, I guess you could say. And Bester not believing that Byron would do what he did was probably the most interesting part of that whole
Hmm.
arc of the episode. And I was half waiting for Sheridan to say that, well, people, it's kind of like the old thing, people don't like to be constrained or live in a jail, which is
Yeah,
basically what Bester was, going to end up doing with these telepaths. So I
and
thought that was a missed opportunity on Sheridan's part, and by extension JMS's part, to talk about the people like, I think back to like the episode, the original pilot for Star Trek, where humans didn't want to live in captivity even if it was pleasant, sort of
yeah,
thing. So there was that aspect to it as well.
I do think it was interesting that Walter Kane plays it that Bester truly cares about these telepaths, right? Like he thinks of them as his they're
Children.
the yeah, his
So
they're the prodigal sons, the
his
prodigal
people, they're his
daughters.
Yeah.
people, even
They're
as
his
bad as they
people.
are, they're still his
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Hook,
But yeah,
I can talk bad about my siblings, but if
but
you talk
you
bad
keep
about
that
my
about him.
siblings, I'm gonna,
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Yep.
will take their side.
Yeah. And then there's that whole underlying theme of the telepaths look down on mundanes.
Right.
Yes.
And it's out in the open. They don't even try to hide how they feel
Yeah.
about it.
And I feel like they're all on the same page, right? Except for Byron, who
Yeah. He
chafed
had,
against that. The other telepaths didn't care about
yeah. No,
mundane.
I mean, it is
And
similar
ex
to,
and except for
uh,
that backstory with Bester, Byron didn't care about
yeah.
mundanes either.
Right.
Yeah.
And it would have been, I agree with you, and it's easy for us, the Monday morning quarterbacking,
Hmm.
that, right, if we had established right from the beginning when Bester comes the first time
Yeah.
and they end up, being, if he had thrown the story in there,
Yeah.
it would have been a little more interesting.
Hey,
Yeah.
Uh,
he
yeah,
could also have dropped in some breadcrumbs. Like, when he
yeah,
and Lita have that little thing where they They're
Yeah.
connecting with each other. Why didn't
Yeah.
they drop in that either he was super powerful or he was in the Psi Corps?
And it seems too that she should have known that,
Right.
right? Like if you have this intimacy and they
Hmm.
establish that you share a mind weld, so I think that's oh
She
wait,
should have
that,
known at least how powerful he was.
yeah. So I think I'm glad the storyline's over.
You
I
keep
I
saying
do
that.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm hopeful.
I think that this was I also am not sure, would have the other telepaths be happy with the sacrifice? I just don't know, right? Like they're okay with
Like,
Byron going,
how did he convince those telepaths that were violent to
yeah,
turn themselves in? Like, how? Like,
yeah.
there's just no way. They had gone down so far down that road that why would they give themselves up? They'd
Mhm,
rather die. I
mhm.
just didn't buy that at all.
I also understand the reason why, but in my this week's tribute to Hallmark movies, my what the Hallmark, wait, what?
Yeah, wait.
Bester has it's a room full of telepaths, they're all psychops, and he verbally gives them their instructions.
Right.
Yeah.
And
For us.
it's us. Um,
Right.
Mm.
and then hearing the
Right.
voiceover.
Right.
Yeah.
He,
Or
he could be compelling them
yeah.
now
Or
that
just
Byron's not interrupting.
yeah, or he could be saying the things that you expect somebody to say in that situation, but then like at the end he would say, like telepathically, and like and let's get these
Yeah.
bastards or something just
Right, right, right.
to
Yeah.
they could have used that telepath stuff so much more
Mhm.
efficiently or effectively than they did to add subtext, and they didn't. They were just every time I see these groups of telepaths, I almost feel like they're doing like a video for Bohemian Rhapsody or something like
Right?
that.
Yeah. And do you think Bester would have used the secrets if he could have got them?
Sure.
Uh,
What
yeah.
secrets? Yeah.
The
Remember he had
telepaths read
all
everybody on that
the
Okay.
ambassadors? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
1%.
By the way, the other thing someone mentioned is Bester says he put two laws, but I think he really just put the first law,
Yep.
which has two parts in
Right.
it. Yeah.
Right. Can't harm
Um,
me and can't, I don't think it
yeah,
was anything else.
yeah,
Although the following orders, I think, was in there earlier before
yeah.
he removed that.
Good.
But
hmm
whatever.
And it was kind of interesting. You sing as you're being burned to death. The also in the script book, JMS says that he was really unhappy with the special effects. He
Yeah.
he he didn't want to. He wanted to do practical. Didn't work out very well, so they had to do practical and CGI. He was not happy with the scenes. I also think we have to give him a little bit of grace because it isn't like with modern, I realize that was in the 80s, but still there's been a lot of technology move
Hmm.
as you watch people like House of Dragon and you see the way that's done, it's a
Yeah.
little bit better.
I have to say, I subscribe to this YouTube channel called Corridor Crew,
Yeah.
and they analyze good and bad CGI. And it is
Yeah.
still incredibly difficult to do water convincingly and fire
hmm
convincingly.
Yeah.
Still. And this is what, 40 years later?
You said
Yeah.
quarter crew. I thought they ranked which shows had the best air ducts or something like
Oh, yeah.
Very
No.
good. Very good.
I'm sure they've given a dig or two on that,
hmm
but
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
are incredibly good. They also do special effects. They
Mhm.
have people on their show that have done special effects, like the guy who did the Star Wars special effects. They analyze all this stuff and they really go into depth about how water and fire are very difficult to do because
Hmm.
of the natural way they move. And it's hard to
Change the
create
scale.
things right to get in the background, you know how when there's fire, things are wavy in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's difficult to do. So I understand practical would have been way better.
Hmm.
I get
But
that.
I just think like Jesse, like you mentioned with them singing, I just think that again, that was and probably because of the special effects issues and the pressures of the TV schedule, But that was a big missed opportunity to make that a real special moment. Like if you think of something like Midnight Mass, where they're all singing just before the sun comes up, like that should have been a really powerful moment, but it just
Yep.
Yeah.
felt really cheesy
Eh,
to be
Yeah.
blunt. Yeah.
Hmm.
agreed.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
On the
I
whole
did
episode.
on the episode anything? Did I miss
Or
anything
I
like I
wanted
did
Jakar
last
and
time?
Londo.
Yeah.
I talked to my husband about this season of Babylon 5 again this morning. I talked to him about it because
Hmm.
he's seen it. And I said, why didn't they make the telepath stuff the secondary story and the stuff
Yeah.
on Centauri Prime the main story? Because they have been setting that up over the seasons, and the telepath war was not something that was in the forefront. And I
Yeah.
think it's really the wrong thing that they did to
Hmm.
focus on that story.
Okay. I also thought Bester's every race that's developed telepaths has to have some way to control them through laws, religion, drugs, or extermination. We not be pretty, but we're a hell of a lot better than the alternates. And once again, the good villains are heroes in their own mind.
Right.
I do think that if you talk to Walter Kean, he will talk about what a gift him
Hmm.
being Bester was in his career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you don't see
Stop them
Chekhov
from being,
in
yeah.
you don't see Chekhov at all. You see Bester.
What were you going to say,
Yes.
Loomis?
I just thought like the whole thing with Lita sort of telling everybody remember Byron or something, or like what,
Yeah.
how much information was she passing to them at that given moment? Because she said she had a whole bunch of stuff to tell them. So again, like you said, Jesse, if Lita and Byron as intimate as they were, they should have known everything about each other, and she should have known
Yep.
about the Garibaldi or the Bester backstory. So, because I'm still trying to puzzle out the title, like who's the Phoenix in this episode? I
Yeah.
think it's supposed to be Byron, but
Yeah. Because you come
because
back.
he's now a martyr.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
I think
and it's the bombing on Mars at the Psi headquarters. Apparently, the phrase "Remember Byron" was there,
yeah.
so
Yep.
he's become a symbol, I guess. I guess the telepaths probably did that on their own, but I still kind of hope that Garibaldi had something to do with it. But probably not.
Yeah.
But that would have been within his character to reach out to somebody to do that.
Hmm.
I don't know, but
Yeah.
that's just a wish fulfillment thing on my part. But yeah, so yeah, it's if
Okay.
this is the end of it, I'm great.
It will continue. Yeah. I mean, continue the
Yeah,
telepaths, obviously.
with oh cool and
Yeah.
Garibaldi, or is that too much of a
Um,
spoiler?
yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But for
Okay.
sure, Bester gets one that makes because I know what's coming on, there's something you guys said today that I really wanted to comment on. So that's the little hint
Okay.
that I'll have that you guys will go, oh, I bet you this is what you were talking about, Jesse, that you wanted to mention.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Anything else we need to talk about on this
So this is
before we go to
episode
ratings?
11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Lou, what are you going to give this one?
Hmm. Despite my issues with it, I still found this the best episode for the telepath. So I think I'll give this 7.75. What am I going to give this? I'm going to have to go with Ducks for the win.
Ah, nice.
I'm going to give it 8 fingers of whiskey,
Ooh,
Ooh, okay.
which is a lot of
that is a
whiskey.
lot of
Yes, it
fun.
is.
Yep.
I think I'm gonna do 7.5 morning songs, as in
Right.
sad. I'm glad this is over. I think that there is a potential here. There is some bones that could be interesting. Kind of a good, and he's saying that you do some recasting, you give this actor a different role somewhere else, and kind of play with it. I think there could be some interesting things. By the way, Lurker's Guide gives it 8.25, so they are
Okay.
giving this more than we are. But I
Still
also think this is over the years, right?
back on it fun.
Yeah, we're seeing this at the new.
But I think we're pretty close anyway.
I believe we got a couple of emails.
I only have one.
I just forwarded you another one.
Okay. I'll open that real quick.
Okay.
There we go.
Yes. Texas sent one and Nathan sent one.
All right.
Nathan way back in October 6th.
Yeah, we should
Yeah,
mention we had a week gap due to personal issues. Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
right. Yeah.
I apologize.
No
Nothing I
issues.
could do about it. Trust me, the week before the election was
Yeah.
worse than the week of
Yes.
the election, for me at
Hmm.
least.
Yeah.
So that tells you how hard it was for me.
Yes.
But anyway, let me read Texas's first since I just opened it.
Okay.
So the telepath crisis finally comes to an end.
Ha ha ha.
Bester is fully in his element here, completely in control, doing what he does best and enjoying every minute of it until things start to go sideways. The scene between Bester and Garibaldi is fantastic. Walter Koenig just plays it to the hilt. From the moment he hears the gun drawn, he knows he's not in any danger, but he draws it out, goading Garibaldi into pulling the trigger, only to discover that he can't. Bester, meanwhile, plays along, doing what Garibaldi demands, up to recording his confession, and then closes his eyes as if awaiting the shot. Then he opens one eye and then the other before he finally tells Garibaldi what's going on.
I did love Walter playing that.
Yeah, big
This
time.
looking like, oh no, and then just
Smug.
yeah, the smugness of the smug. Just oh, and then the whole raising the hand and everything.
Yeah.
Just oh, and don't forget to turn off the lights. Just
By
I
far my
loved
favorite scene
him.
of the entire
Oh
episode.
yeah, absolutely.
Bester avoids that common villain failing of telling the heroes what he's going to do. He does tell Garibaldi everything, but it already happened, and there's nothing Michael can do about it. Yeah, that was great that he doesn't monologue about what he did. He just says, I already did it. He enjoys every second of spilling the beans and watching Garibaldi stew in his impotence. And then he leaves and tells him to turn off the lights when he's done. Garibaldi is left with the active Babcom terminal seemingly mocking him with its standby message until he shoots it. So now that you've seen what happens in full context, what do you think of it and what the professors 100 years in the future had to say about it? The rest of the episode follows the confrontation between the rogue telepaths and the Psi Corps. The extremists, as mentioned, resort to taking hostages. EarthGov is ignoring the problem and hoping it just goes away, and Byron is desperately trying to find a way out of the situation that he basically single-handedly created. The reveal that he was a psychop and Bester's protege, no less, I didn't see coming, but I wasn't that surprised by it either. Despite all his talk about peace and finding a better way, he always had a very superior bearing, and the way he always refers to non-telepaths as mundanes has a Bester-level condescension to it. Oh, and at the end of it all, Garibaldi gets a bottle and takes a drink. So that's pretty much what I got. From here, we'll be dealing with the fallout from other things, and we'll see what comes of that. Until next time, when we think of more positive things, like declaring war on Earth. All righty. Wow, that's a bit of a tell, right? This is the Texas on the Shock signing off. Until Zaveni.
Yeah, and I will tell you that because I knew of this Asimov, there is a joy in watching everything he's done. And then when you have the discussion in at Mars, I'm going, there's another shoe that's going to fall. And they
Yeah,
don't even imply it. They just totally leave it when you're going, I can't wait. Oh, and then you have where they keep Garibaldi away from Bester, right? They put him in jail
right.
because they're worried about this. And then there is this whole nother shoe that falls is just really, I think, satisfying.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, so Nathan says, hey guys, the Witch of the West is dead. Whoops, spoilers for Wicked. Okay, I think we kind of knew that was coming,
Yeah.
right? The writing has utterly failed when you think, thank God they all died, regarding the group that intended to be sympathetic and was until you made them the focus of the story. The plot is all kinds of stupid. The characters are forced to wrestle with being written like idiots. Sheridan wants official power to deal with the situation, after he has given up his protection. Lockley, another great hypocrite, wants official power after she was the one who invited Bester and the Psi Corps. And we should feel bad for them not being able to wrangle everything. Why? My only answer is because they are the good guys and we liked them before. Good point.
Amen.
Yep.
Yes.
Another self-contradictory thing, most telepaths just leave. Turns out it could all be done all along. And no 60-day quarantine or whatever was needed. EarthGov gave up power to Sheridan or something? What? It's certainly not lawful. Anyway, it's the end of the worst stretch of the episodes in Babylon 5, and I think the main reason why fans say not to watch season 5. On to much better stuff. Now, they both said on to better stuff.
Yeah.
So that must mean something.
Yeah, I feel that way. But now that I'm a little, it's kind of like, well, I really like this Springsteen album, but will you guys like it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on board with that same deal. I think that was dead on how I feel about it as well.
Good. All right.
How about the website?
Because
we were away for a week. Are the Psi Corps like the elites, like the Democrats, and the mundanes are like the voting public?
I know.
I don't know. That's interesting.
But
no, they do have a blind spot, I think.
Yeah, we do. Yes.
The fact that people are bad. That's our blind spot, right?
If someone wants to go to the website and give us some feedback, how can they reach you, Lou?
They can do that by going to YouTube and looking for Lou's Reviews, where Best Last Hope podcast is our flagship podcast, and you'll find our videos up for that. Jesse also posts them on various podcast networks. I assume you can get them through whatever aggregator you like to use. We also have our JKL Media podcast, and I believe we're doing Stagecoach.
Yes, we
today. And then we've done a whole bunch of TV series and books and music and movies. I also have my writers podcast there, as well as my Stephen King podcast.
Super. Amy.
Recent writers podcasts.
What usually
so
get
go
2 a
check
month.
them out. You can email us at jklb5podcast@gmail.com. And I am at Oliveria on the various social media, including Blue Sky. So if you're on Blue Sky, feel free to look me up. So yeah, that's where I am. And I also have a blog called alleystuff.com.
Well, I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. You can find me, Jesse Jackson, on Facebook. We are in the middle of 30 Days of Springsteen, 30 episodes on Set Listing Bruce, a new episode every day covering different Springsteen albums. Today, as we're recording this, you got a twofer. I had 2 different people that wanted to talk about Lucky Town, so I couldn't choose between them, so I recorded them both. And so you got 2 new episodes of Set Listing Bruce today. Thank you. I've been having a lot of fun having different people talk about the albums. And please check that out and let us know what you're thinking. Lou, Karen, as always, this is so much fun. I really needed this today, as I said, because of the time frame. So I'm excited that we're about to talk about a classic film that has a few problems, but we're going to get past those in our next episode.
Or are we?
Yes, but for now, everyone, be safe, be kind, and we will talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Hang in there. All right, here we go. Hang in there, people. And see.